Alpha Nerd Entertainment. What is going on, everybody? Steve here from Alpha Nerd Entertainment. I want to thank you for dropping by the channel. Today we are doing part 3 of my favorite games of all time. In this video we're going to be continuing to count down the list from number 75, counting backwards all the way to number 51. It's been a lot of fun diving deep into my mind, thinking about all the games I've played over all the many years, and thinking about all the games that have left a lasting impression and a major impact on me. So much of an impact, they found their way into this list of 150 games. As always, it is my list. So many of your favorites will not be on this list, and for that, I do apologize. But keep in mind, it is my list, and I have to stay true to myself, and I have to select the games that made an impression to me. With that being said, let's just waste no more time and dive into number 75, which is a really awesome game that has a lot of special meaning to me because I used to watch my father play it on the Commodore 64. Many decades later, I would finally beat it for the Nintendo Entertainment System, and that awesome game is Maniac Mansion for the NES. So as I mentioned, this game does have a very special place in my heart, as I really did love watching my dad play this game as a kid, as I was nowhere near smart enough to navigate my way through this game and figure out all the puzzles that lied ahead. That's what I love about this game. It's very thought-provoking. It's not quite cryptic, but some of the secrets are a little bit cryptic. One that always got me was using the telescope to look through the window at a small number written on a wall. Well, you can spin that telescope all around and you would think to look up to the stars with it, but I wouldn't think to look through a window at a little number written on a wall. In fact, I don't think that would even work, but nonetheless, this game is excellent and I really do love it. Well, I gotta say, I only beat this game for the first time this year, and wow, did it leave an impact. This game is as cool as they come. My God, his music is high energy, intense, awesome action, balls to the wall, in your face, shoot 'em up, badass, glory. Contra Hardcore for the Sega Genesis lived up to the hype in a really big way. You know, a lot of games have a lot of hype around them, and sometimes they don't quite deliver. This game did, and I really enjoyed its learning curve. It's very pattern-oriented, so when you know what to do, it can actually become relatively easy. But I do like that they did it that way because it makes it challenging in all the right ways. It is good hard, and it is good graphics. It is good sound. It is good control. I can't think of anything bad about this game other than the fact that, well, maybe it could have used a couple more levels, but it has all kinds of secret endings, multiple different routes, incredibly cool bosses, awesome weapons. Actually, I love the weapons in this game, that you can cycle through all those different choices to really mix up how you play. Though I tell you, me personally, when I lose the ones I'm dependent on, I'm pretty much screwed. And I always liked fighting this guy here. I don't know his name, but he's kick-ass. And the end boss is gross. Number 73, Earthworm Jim for the Sega Genesis. Who loves Earthworm Jim? This guy right here. This game is so creative and silly and goofy with just really awesome, creative, unique level design. I think the people who created this game really wanted to be different, and I'm gonna say that they excelled in every way, shape, or form. Now, this game is tough, but I tell you, it's not all that bad when you know what to do. I guess that could be said about any game, but Earthworm Jim definitely has a unique learning curve. I love cruising around in this little bubble ship, by the way, and I'm actually quite good at it. I love the subtle controls required to navigate with it. I just love all the levels, except for Snot a Problem. Snot a Problem is actually really cheap and very irritating. I also love the level number 5, that they just call number 5. In fact, that just reminds me of how much I love this game's sense of humor and self-awareness. Jim himself is an awesome character, and for Pete's sake here is one of the more creative levels I've ever played, where you just have to whip the puppy along over the holes. It's not that difficult after some practice, but boy is it difficult the first time. When I was a kid, it drove me absolutely crazy, and well, I just couldn't beat this game when I was a kid. Developed those skills when I got older. Earthworm Jim, number 73, It's awesome. In all honesty, I'm struggling to come up with words to describe how awesome Miss Pac-Man is. For starters, she has to be the first female character of all time, and that's really cool. Miss Pac-Man takes what Pac-Man did and improves on it, while keeping and retaining all the perfect things that made Pac-Man so incredible. There will not be many arcade games to make my top 150, and I'm happy to say that Miss Pac-Man is one of them. This game is addictive, it is fun, its controls are actually excellent, and I love that it created some other levels. That was a big deal back then, having different screens. Miss Pac-Man, super awesome high score based game that I can't get enough of. Super Castlevania IV is a very interesting game that gets very mixed reviews. I'll often see it in some of the greatest games of all time list, where many Castlevania enthusiasts put it lower on their list, but some of them love it the most. I really like this one. I love its bright, colorful graphics, and though its music might not be as good as some of the other entries, I really do like the mood music that is in this game, as I feel this game is one of the longer Castlevanias. Or maybe I'm just crap and it takes me longer to execute. I don't know, but I just like everything about this game. I feel it takes you on a very good journey. It's got great controls, and it actually has a pretty good use of Mode 7. It's just a very atmospheric, awesome, enthralling experience, and it's just a retro 16-bit game done right. It doesn't really do anything wrong in my opinion, except for maybe that strange whip that you can spin around in all kinds of random directions that can actually be useful to use, but it just looks really terrible. That was maybe a poor choice, but this game overall is really, really good. Okay, maybe the end boss is a little bit too easy compared to other Castlevanias. Outside of that, it's near perfect. Number 70, Crash Bandicoot 3 Warped for the PS1. Okay, there's a lot of awesome things I can say about Crash, but his commercials were absolutely top-notch. I know that's not relevant to the game itself, but the fact that it mocked Sega and Nintendo was a really cool thing, because he was the next big mascot on the scene. What I like about Crash Bandicoot Warped is it mixes up the level variety quite a bit more than the other entries. However, I do find it significantly easier than 2 and 3. Its boss fights are possibly the best in the original trilogy, and it's just Naughty Dog gold. You know, back then I was not really aware of what Naughty Dog would become, because, well, obviously I wasn't psychic, but, you know, it just seemed like everything Naughty Dog has worked on has been important to them, because they put their best foot forward with everything they've made. You know, I can't talk about Crash being awesome without talking about how great Naughty Dog is well. And this game is just so much fun. It's a 3D game, but plays very 2.5D and even 2D at times. It's just really good fun. It can be very difficult at times. It can be very frustrating at times. But most of all, it's just fun, at least 90% of the time. Number 69, Rocket Knight Adventures. I'm not sure if I should talk about the fact that everything Konami made back in the day was absolutely awesome, or if I just should spend my time talking about why Rocket Knight Adventures is absolutely wicked. I'm pretty damn sure he's a possum, and a pretty cool possum. This game's wild. Its boss music might be my favorite boss music in any game. Its level design really mixes things up. It's a difficult game, but for me, it's difficult in all the right ways. Tons of boss fights, which really adds to this game's, experience. The rocket sword can be used in many different awesome ways. Again, I just want to immediately start talking about how good Konami was. And it's kind of sad to know that they're not really around the way they were back then, because they just cared about everything they made. And if you played Rocket Knight Adventures, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. It's just absolutely everything in this game is done to perfection, other than maybe this fight. A lot of people hate this fight, but I've actually grown to really enjoy how to fight that fight. I suggest counterattacking. The end boss, though, kind of irritating and not the best. Other than that, it's awesome. Number 68, Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing, longest name ever, transformed. Okay, what if I told you that this is better than Mario Kart 8 Deluxe? What if I told you Mario Kart 8 Deluxe made Mario Kart 8 Deluxe because Mario Kart 8 wasn't good enough because they saw what this game did with all the transformations between boats and planes and tried to put their own little spin on it. But their own little spin on it wasn't as good. Boy, this game is truly fantastic, and if you're a kart fan, I implore you to play this one. If you're a huge Mario Kart fan, you probably won't like this one as much, but I know for a fact you will love it. There's no denying this game's greatness. Its graphics are absolutely crisp, bright, colorful, vibrant. Its controls are absolutely sick, tight, smooth, superb. And I love how the plane and the boat and the cars all handle uniquely different. The boat is a little sluggish, but a boat would be. The plane, I do have a minor complaint, can feel a little bit slow, but I think it's so you can control it. Otherwise, it might be a little too hard to handle. But otherwise, it handles great. And the kart racing itself is super crisp, super tight, super awesome. A wild variety of characters, and not to mention the story mode. Well, another arcade game to make the list, and I guess I could say another game that I loved watching my father play and beat, because, well, I suppose I didn't quite have the hand-eye coordination and reaction time to get the job done. I would end up owning this game on Sega CD, I guess you could say the blurry version of Dragon's Lair, but it was still awesome to have in 1993. Don Bluth's artwork will never not impress me. And this game, for me, is just nostalgic and fun. It's got to be the OG QuickTime event game. I can't think of anything that did it before Dragon's Lair. Released in 1983, who could have did it before Dragon's Lair? So often imitated, never duplicated. Unless it was Dragon's Lair Time Warp, I have a special place for this game. The levels themselves, or screens if you will, do kind of go from place to place in a bit of a random order, but it all works really well. And it was just a super fun game to learn as a kid, and it was a really super fun game to learn and master as an adult. Proud to have NDR'd this game. Proud to have NDR'd Space Ace and Dragon's Lair 2. They're just super cool, creative, interesting, unique games, and there's not many games quite like them. And, well, for a lack of better word, I just simply love it. I remember beating the Lizard King here for the first time as a kid, and I just thought it was the coolest thing. I would die over and over and over, and when I finally got through, it was so satisfying. I can do it so easily now, but, well, I guess that's makes sense because we're supposed to grow and get better with age, I guess. But I don't know. I'll just leave it at that and just say that the artwork is incredible. The game itself is just really cool. It might not be for everybody, but it is for me. And Daphne is, well, obviously super hot. Let's be real. Don Bluth, I guess he knew what he liked. Well done, Mr. Bluth. And well done to Dragon's Lair. This game's wicked. Singe the Dragon. He's kind of a dope, though, eh? He's kind of an odd-looking dragon. If you haven't beat Dragon's Lair, you kind of owe it to yourself to do it. It's a game everyone should play through at least once in their life. And I mean that. Number 66. Ghosts of Sparta. Fucking God of War. Emphasis on the fucking. Because it's the most manly, badass, coolest character possibly ever created. He is just like the embodiment of testosterone and manly things. Wielding the blades of chaos and a variety of other weapons. It's just more of what you love. It's a mixture of melee beat 'em up with platform puzzling executed to perfection. Now, if you think about God of War 1, God of War 2, God of War 3, God of War Ascension, Chains of Olympus, and Ghosts of Sparta, that is 6 awesome games. You'd think they would get tired and repetitive and played out and boring, but no, it's just simply more of what you love every single time you do it. I've always been a gigantic fan of Greek mythology, and well, this series just executes it and plays it out to perfection.
and it just never gets old. I love that they reinvented the character to do something new and original, but for me, it's the original style of God of Wars here that are my favorite. And this one is a banger like all the others. You know, I'm not quite sure I can say Castlevania without saying Omega Ace Gaming. I'm really glad that he suggested that I stream this one, even though I lost my absolute mind when I played it blind and was in a rush and I didn't do well. But, well, I gave the game more time and more effort and didn't give up on it. And, well, that's my favorite sunset in all video games, possibly. That sunset's absolutely remarkable. And this game is absolutely remarkable, and I'm glad that I gave it more of a chance and didn't dismiss it just because I was playing poorly. This game's great. And, well, because it beat me up so bad at one point, I made a point of beating it up so bad to no death run this one, and I'm proud of that. It's not exactly the hardest Castlevania, but it is one of the better ones. It's got a great use of level design. I love playing as Eric Lacard, and I love that the game provides two playable characters with two pretty unique, distinct playthroughs. The Turd Demon here, as I call him, is a really cool boss also. And I like that you have the boss gauntlet at the end of this game. One of the things that separates this Castlevania with other Castlevanias for me, and why it's probably, and actually I believe it is, my favorite Castlevania game, is the boss fights. They're just really good, and the sprites are all big, bright, and colorful, and that there is actually one of my favorite Blood Red Moons, and I think a Blood Red Moon is a very fitting thing to be in a Castlevania game. The Dracula fight at the end here, in all his different forms, is a pretty epic finish as well. Bloodlines, Castlevania is gold.
Number 64, Virtua Racing.
For those of you who have played Virtua Racing, that's how it sounds at the title screen. Virtua Racing! But this game is fantastic, and I know what you're thinking. How did this guy put Virtua Racing Deluxe for the 32X above Castlevania Bloodlines? Well, I understand that game has a ton more depth, but you know what? This game's a whole lot more fun to pick up and play. This game is fucking awesome. It plays so damn good that I cannot truly convey to you just how good it is unless you go and play it for yourself and get good at it. It's been re-released on PlayStation 2 and the Switch, and guess what? This version still plays the fastest and the best. There's just something about this version that is incredible. It is lightning in a bottle for the Virtua Racing series, and if you've played it, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's just so smooth, so awesome. I love that it has all the different views, and I love that it has all the different cars. The prototype is absolutely crazy fast and handles like a Le Mans car, and the stock car just is actually the funnest to play. It's the most fun, since funnest ain't a word. But it is the most fun to use. It handles so incredibly awesome and so unique compared to the other cars. And the F1 car, well, of course, handles the best. It's not the fastest, though, because that prototype Le Mans car definitely has a higher top end. It is Virtua Racing Deluxe for the 32X, and if you've never played it, you should, because it's one hell of an awesome racing game from the 4th generation.
Number 63, Batman Arkham Asylum.
Batman Arkham Asylum is one incredible game, and that is coming from a Marvel fanboy. I definitely don't dislike DC, but I don't love DC. I do think they lack good characters as a whole, but they definitely have one of the best. And Mark Hamill is superb as the Joker in the animated series, and he is superb as the Joker in this game as well. Everything this game does is absolutely excellent. The fight with Mr. Freeze is awesome. Your experiences and fights with Bane are incredible. The throwing of the batarangs is awesome. The beat-em-up sections kind of redefine how beat-em-ups would be played. Though this ain't a beat-em-up game, the melee fighting parts are revolutionary for its time. And this game clearly has stood up very well in what's been close to 15 years since it was released. Batman is awesome. Joker is awesome. A lot of people didn't like the end fight, but I didn't think it was worth critiquing. This game is absolutely awesome.
Number 62 has you all running scared. One of the hardest games ever made from the 4th generation. Dick fucking Tracy.
So there is a reason I put so much emphasis on the F word there, and it's because you will be saying it a lot if you play Dick Tracy for the Sega Genesis. This game is as hard as they come, but it's not unfair. It is hard for all the right reasons. The Sega Technical Institute prided themselves on making difficult, good games, and Dick Tracy is exactly that, a difficult, good game. I love how this game makes you shoot in the foreground, left and right on different levels, while having to transition to shooting in the background. It really makes your brain have to think and work overtime to interact with all the different actions that are going to happen when these goons and gangsters are trying to take you out and attack you. It does have a nice variety of level design between the car levels and the levels where you just simply go around melee. Now, those levels don't make a ton of sense, that you have to go in a fisticuffs of beating people up, but it does add a different element to the game. This game is really, really good. And I'm not just saying that because I've beaten it. You know, sometimes people beat hard games and they consider them great just because they overcame it. This is actually a very good game with, you know, its level design isn't anything outstanding, as it's pretty repetitive throughout the game, but it's repetitive in a good way. And if you haven't played Dick Tracy and you're a fan of good hard games, this is one you need to add to your list. It's awesome. Now, admittedly, I'm not the hugest fan of the Resident Evil franchise, though I have beat Resident Evil 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and Code Veronica. Resident Evil here, the remake for the GameCube, is definitely one of my favorites. Resident Evil is a very well executed game, and I love the smooth, enhanced graphics of the GameCube version. Jill Valentine and Chris Renfield are awesome characters, and I do love these pre-rendered, like, isometric camera angle views. You do go through far too many of these opening door sequences, but it's a very awesome, thought-provoking game where the saves are reliant on your ribbons, and you also want to ration out the things you find and use, like ammo and health. You don't want to just use them irresponsibly, and you care about your playthrough, and you want to be smart about it. It's that survival horror done oh so well. It's Resident Evil.
Number 60, Shadow Dancer.
So if you don't know me, you might not know that I'm a huge fan of Shinobi games, and well, Shadow Dancer: The Secret of Shinobi is another awesome Shinobi game, and well, one of my proudest NDRs, only because when I did this no death run, I was still a rookie no death runner, and it was very difficult for me to do. I imagine if I were to tackle this one today, it would be a whole lot easier than it was then, but it's kind of doing this one that kind of, you know, got me better as a gamer. And I always enjoy improving as a gamer, as I'm not the best gamer, but I do have my strengths. Some might consider me great, I consider myself average, but I am proud to have no death run in this game because it is a one-hit kill game, so all it takes is one mistake and you're dead. One hit, no health bar, that's it, one hit and you're toast. So essentially beating it deathless is a hitless run, and this game's just really good stuff. Just really, really good stuff. That's it. Cool bosses, wicked levels, jumping ninjas, cool ninja powers, cool ninja weapons. Shadow Dancer: Secret of Shinobi is number 60, and I love this game. And if you played it, I think you would too. Number 59's Heavy Rain barely qualifies as a video game if you consider what most video games are. Most video games, you have to put in tons of input commands into your controller. Well, this game is not that. It's not a skill-based game. It's a experience. It's a cinematic movie brought to life in a video game with quick time events and puzzle solving. It's a incredible story with, I believe, 23 different endings. It's a masterpiece. Just a brilliant game. I can't say enough good things about this game. Though it's unconventional in the gaming world, and yeah, you don't need to be awesome to play it and beat it, but it's going to appeal to many different people. Saving your son and doing any means necessary to save him, and it leaves it up to you. You can be a good father or a shit father. It's just incredible.
Number 58, MDK2 Armageddon.
The only thing that bugs me about MDK2 Armageddon is not enough people have played and beat it. MDK, which by the way doesn't stand for Murder, Death, Kill. It stands for Mac, Doc, and Kurt. Kurt is the guy you're seeing right now. He is a sniper, a fast, gliding assassin with levels that are unique and distinct to him. So when you play his levels, you know what you're in for. When you switch to Mac, the four-armed dog created by the mad scientist doctor, you're in for some heavy gun action, and you're in for intelligent puzzle levels when playing as the doctor. This game mixes it up in a very creative, intelligent way. It's fast-paced, it's fun, and its puzzles are so unique and clever. Its level design is very, very good for early 3D games, and if you have a PlayStation 2 or a Dreamcast, you need to go out and purchase this game immediately. It is really good.
Number 57, Golden Axe.
Who loves Golden Axe? This guy loves Golden Axe. And if you played Golden Axe, you'd probably love Golden Axe. Well, to be fair, this game really isn't all that good. This one makes the list due to a lot of nostalgia. I still do think it's a very good game, but I am fully aware that it's also a very mediocre game. Its hit detection isn't the best, its controls are a little sluggish and a little stiff. Its graphics are also just okay, but its fun factor, it's high. I really love this game. It's corny, it's a little cringy, but I think it kind of adds to the charm. Yeah, a lot of nostalgia is why it's so high on the list, but I'm okay with that. It's a really fun game, and it was definitely a challenging no-death run, to say the least. I had to really discover a lot of unique things on how to battle and successfully win in the final fight against Deathbringer. Whether it's Deathbringer or Death Adder that you face throughout this game, it's just a whole lot of cool minions, from the skeletons to the stone men to the giant steel lords. It's great.
Number 56, Need for Speed Hot Pursuit 2.
Sometimes I hear people say I don't like racing games, and all I hear is I like dudes. I don't like chicks. How can you not like racing games? How can you not like Need for Speed Hot Pursuit 2? Released on the Xbox, the PlayStation 2, and Nintendo GameCube, Need for Speed Hot Pursuit 2 is the sequel to Need for Speed 3. Technically the superior and better game, I still like the original more. This game provides tons of awesome, well-designed tracks with a lot of space for driving, which I quite appreciate. Once you get the faster cars and you're flying at incredible speeds all over the place, you're going to like that little extra wiggle room to get around those turns. It's got some good cars from the Lamborghini Murcielago and the Mercedes SLK GTR, and many other fantastic cars to choose from, and many fantastic tracks. You can play as the cops, which is a really awesome added extra. And I just can't say enough good things about this game, and I will always be perplexed and confused as to why people don't like racing games. Just don't get it. They are just so much fun, and, well, to each their own. But for me, I love me racing games, and I love me some Need for Speed Hot Pursuit 2 from the Nintendo GameCube and PlayStation 2 and Xbox.
Number 55, Prince of Persia and the Sands of Time.
So a part of me thinks many people watching this may have not played Prince of Persia and the Sands of Time. And another part of me thinks that some of you may have played Prince of Persia and the Sands of Time and beaten it, and are like, hell yes, awesome choice. That wall running mechanic was a really innovative, awesome thing. Now this is some really good 3D platforming done very well. Obviously inspired by the original Prince of Persia games, getting its first real good effort in the 3D world, probably did it the best. Sands of Time mixes up the platforming and fighting in a really, really big way. It was kind of like God of War before God of War, and boy oh boy is it really good. I do prefer the sequel a fair bit more, but technically this one is probably the best of the three. Some really good melee, some really good fighting, some really good platforming, some bright, colorful graphics, with some very fitting music.
Number 54, Crash Bandicoot 2.
Crash Bandicoot 2, Wrath of the Cortex. Well, that's all three of them on the list now. Somewhere in part 1, Crash Bandicoot made the list. Earlier in this episode, Crash Bandicoot 3 made an appearance. But my favorite of the original trilogy is Crash Bandicoot 2, Wrath of the Cortex. It's not as hard as the first, but I think that's a good thing, because the first one is actually a tiny bit too hard and takes away from its fun factor. This one is more difficult than the third, and that's a good thing, because the third is a bit too easy. This one has more of the variety that the third one offers, so it just sort of improves on the first game, and really, I think its sweet spot is right here in the second game from the original trilogy. I think it's the best. Crash is an awesome character, it's an awesome trilogy, and Crash Bandicoot 2 is an awesome game, and it just does that linear 3D/2D/2.5D gameplay very, very right. It's got some creative bosses, some creative levels, and I tell you, going through those bonus stages is always a very fun experience, because it's one of the opportunities in the game where when you fail, you don't lose a man, and it'll let you try again, and I quite like that, and I quite like Crash Bandicoot 2.
Number 53 is absolutely awesome, Shinobi for the PlayStation 2.
Shinobi for the PlayStation 2. I cannot recommend this game enough, but I must warn you, this game has an extremely steep learning curve. Very good gamers will have to commit to getting good at the game's controls. Now, the controls are definitely not bad. They're going to feel bad when you first start playing, but then you'll quickly realize that the game, it just has some very deep, complex controls with many different moves and many different mechanics. And once you take the time to learn those moves and get good at the game, you're going to really grow to love this game a lot. It's very difficult, but it's really well put together. There's a targeting system you're going to want to master, because it does make all the boss fights that much easier. In fact, without it, I don't think you'll even beat the end boss. The end boss is extremely difficult. Even this fight right here is very difficult as well, not done correctly. This game has some awesome level design, some incredible platforming moments, and some altogether just wicked awesome ninja, stealth, melee, fighting, action. It fits perfectly in with the rest of the Shinobi games. I wouldn't have thought so, and I figured it would have been bad, but I would have guessed wrong. This game is exceptional. And it is number 53, and you need to play Shinobi for the PlayStation 2.
Number 52, Snatcher for the Sega CD.
So in some ways, when I talk about the games, I'm low-key kind of trying to sell them to those who haven't played the games I'm talking about. And, well, Snatcher is a bit of a tough sell. It's a very slow-paced game. It could easily be considered boring, but for those who like a really good story that is inspired by Terminator and movies like Blade Runner, then this might be a game for you. Konami once again strikes gold in this awesome, clever, intelligent game with fantastic story, with excellent dialogue, and very good voice acting for an older game. I've beaten this game twice, and I will beat it again. It's a very good game, a very good story, it's very engaging, and the character development is top notch. It really draws you in, it makes you like the people or dislike certain characters, and I think if you give this one a chance, you'll find yourself enjoying it just as much as me. Number 52, Snatcher.
Number 51, Ghostbusters, the video game remastered for the PlayStation 4.
Ghostbusters, the video game. I only beat it for the first time 3 months ago, but boy does it storm its way into my list of top 150 games, taking the 51st spot. I don't know why it took me over a decade to play this game when an old coworker highly recommended it to me, knowing that I was a Ghostbuster fan. And I tell you, he hyped it up, and it lived up to the hype. This game is extremely good. The story, the dialogue, written by Harold Ramis, and I think also Dan Aykroyd. It really feels like a third Ghostbuster movie in many regards. Amazing fight scenes, awesome boss fights, segues from many different levels, many different environments, many different ghosts. And it's really cool to be able to be the fifth Ghostbuster, working with Winston and Peter Venkman, Egon, and Ray. This is a absolute awesome game, and a must-play for any Ghostbuster fan, but I think just a must-play for any video game fan. This game's fantastic, and it takes the 51st spot.
There you have it, everybody. That is the conclusion of my Part 3 favorite games of all time, games 75 to 51. Let me know in the comments if you played and beaten any of these games. Let me know if any of these games are some of your favorites. Let me know if you dislike or hate any of these games. I'd be very interested to know. Please like this video. Please share this video, as this is a passion project from one gamer to all you other gamers around the world. I've had so much fun thinking about my favorite games, and it's just been really cool to make these videos. Be on the lookout for Part 4, where I continue to work my way through the list from games 50 to number 26. As we get that much closer to the top of my list, there'll be many more good games to come. With that being said, keep it cool, keep it classy, and always modern and retro game from Generation 1 to the current 9th generation. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.